What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, number 7. We're going to start with you, Carson. The Minnesota Timberwolves. So are you higher or lower than you were on the Minnesota Timberwolves before the start of the season?
I am much higher. And I came into this season with some optimism, just thinking, all right, fully healthy. Can they figure out the offensive fit a little bit more with the two bigs? Can they defend at a very high level? But then early in the year, I was like, I still think it's too clunky. I just don't think offensively they can reach the ceiling that they need to. But as the year has gone on, I think that Cat has gotten more comfortable. I think that he's also just improved as a shot maker. And I think we have seen that this is a truly dominant defense. In the regular season, it has been by far the best defense in the league. Gobert has returned to his peak level defensively, and he's doing that with by far the best defensive supporting cast that he's ever had. Awesome dudes at the point of attack. McDaniels is elite. Ant is really good when he wants to be. And Cat is doing so much more than we've ever seen him do defensively. He has committed so much more to that end of the floor as a secondary rim protector. We know the value he can have guarding big bodies in post-up scenarios, allowing Gobert to be a roamer in those playoff settings. And I think that has been valuable. I didn't expect them to be this great defensively, even if I thought that would be the strength of this team. And then I think Ant has taken a couple mini leaps, which I expected him to, but I think his playmaking is a bit better. I think we've seen him lean on that intermediate shot making a bit more, which has always been the weakness in his game. He's always been insane 99th percentile athlete getting to the rim. And he's been hot and cold as a pull-up shooter from deep, but has consistently improved there and has had really hot stretches. The thing has just been a lack of touch in terms of floaters and not really having any sort of mid-range game. And his efficiency has gone down in those areas. He got off to the year at a really good start, and he was really good for Team USA in the offseason. So I thought maybe he'd take a bit more of a leap there. But he's still more comfortable, I would say, at least with this super versatile all-around attack. And I really do like the supporting cast. I really like Conley. I really like McDaniels. I really like Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid off the bench. They're big. They're physical. They're not experienced on the level of AD and LeBron, but most of their dudes have been in those playoff environments before, and I do think that matters. So this was not a team that I foresaw having a Western Conference Finals kind of ceiling, and now I absolutely think that they do.
Yeah, I totally concur. Heading into the season, I said the Rudy Gobert trade was the worst in NBA history, and I was completely wrong on that. I thought that this is going to be a complete disaster with the draft capital that they gave up, and I thought it wasn't ever going to work, and I was wrong. A lot of it has to do with the time that this team has put in, too, I agree. I think this is the best defense in basketball. I think it is going to hold up during a playoff run, and then offensively, I buy in, and it's little things. Like I mentioned, it's Gobert hitting guys out of the short roll now. It's Ant not being afraid to use his guys, like taking a pump fake at the top of the key. He feeds another guy and then cuts to the basket, and they feed it right back to him. Like, the team just knows how to play with each other. I love the ball movement during a Minnesota game. Like, it's an offense that I believe in the playoffs. I just think they work together, and they've played together long enough that they have real chemistry that I buy into. I'm much, much higher on the Timberwolves, and I wholeheartedly buy into them as a Western Conference Finals and potentially finals contender. Like, Carson, I know you've said this on our show before too. It would take a lot in a hypothetical series against Denver, but I think they match up against Denver better than anybody else out west.
So I want to be clear. I am much higher on the Timberwolves than I was to start the season. I've been on the Timberwolves for a while, pretty much since the end of last season. I've just loved the idea of Ant, Jaden, and Rudy as just this unbelievable combination of two just straight jackets on the perimeter. And then a dude that, you happen to beat them off the dribble. Well, here's one of the best rim protectors in NBA history waiting for you on the backside. Anthony Edwards is taking a leap. His last 18 games, he's 29 points per game on 49% from the field and 39% from three. That's over a stretch where they played almost exclusively good teams. The defense is insane and is legitimate. We watched their defense against all good opponents over the last month and a half or so, and they've been excellent in all of those games. When I say that I have a certain pessimism around the Minnesota Timberwolves in the postseason, it really is this simple. Their three main offensive weapons are Karl Towns, Mike Conley, and Anthony Edwards. Karl Towns is a historically inconsistent playoff performer. Like, great one game, awful the next. Mike Conley is a old skill guard. As the point of attack physicality picks up, slower skill guards tend to struggle a little bit. And Anthony Edwards is young. And like, once again, like we've talked about so many times on this, even just with the three of us, it's growing pains. How often do you see a dude in his early 20s, like, kick everybody's ass and go all the way? Like, maybe he's Kevin Durant, but that's Kevin Durant. He's one of the 10 greatest basketball players to ever play the game, at least in terms of the perimeter in modern NBA history, right? So the point being, like, I just have question marks about like the long-term, like, winning 4 playoff series type of environment. Because here's the thing, like, Ant has shot really well with this pull-up jump shot as of late, and he shot really well in the postseason in 2 one-series samples. Ant's one of the things that happens in the postseason is everything becomes geared around your star's weakness. It's no different than Joel Embiid. Every single postseason, he gets more turnovers than assists as teams just throw the kitchen sink at him and test his passing ability. That's what I expect teams to do to Ant in the postseason. There's this kind of concept with Ant where it's like, oh, you play off of him and you pray he misses. I could see teams going like, no, we're pressing up on you and we're packing the paint and we're going to test you as a playmaker. Let's see if you're disciplined enough for a 7-game series to consistently make the right read. And oh, by the way, we're going to close out short on Jaden McDaniels because he's got a little bit of a slower release. And, Mike Conley, we're going to bully his legs until he's tired and old. And, Karl Towns, can be inconsistent offensively in the postseason. So like, that's where I think things could get a little ugly for them, is just they have their primary 3 offensive players are 3 guys that are all 3 of them are guys that have some sort of playoff question mark surrounding them in some way, shape, or form. So that's why I have them as low as I have them. But the defense is real, and they are going to bully some teams physically. It just more comes down to that half-court slow-down environment and whether or not Anthony Edwards can go toe-to-toe with the very best players in the league and beat them in a playoff series. And NBA history tells us the dude in his early 20s typically does not. But I love the Timberwolves long term. I would give them, like, they feel like one of those teams that like 2 years from now is just going to be a perennial top tier contender. So like I feel about Minnesota the way I feel about Oklahoma City. I view them as like an upcoming staple in the league for a half a decade. I'm just saying, in this singular season, they strike me as one of those teams that's overachieving a bit in the regular season and that will run into some roadblocks when they get to the postseason, which is super common for a team that's anchored by a young superstar. And that has a certain amount of like athletic verve that they can rely on for the 82.